So you're looking at making a move out here to Tacoma, Washington, and I'm super excited, but you want to make sure it's the right move for you. Well, what I got to tell you is I love showing you all these neighborhoods, telling you about the amazing things out here, and just the wonderful life the Pacific Northwest has to offer. But the reality is, there are people who do regret moving out to Tacoma, Washington. And in today's video, I'm gonna walk you through some of the most common reasons that I've heard why people actually regret making the move out here. I'm gonna run through those with you and try to show you how you could possibly maybe counter those if you ran into those same situations. But ultimately, I just want to help you decide if making your move out to Tacoma is the right move for you or not. And we're getting after it right now. Hey, what's up? My name is Austin. Chris, myself, and our team, we're getting phone calls, texts, and emails every day from people just like you looking to make their move out to Tacoma, Washington, and we absolutely love it. So whether you're looking to make your move out here in the next 3 days or the next 3 months, shoot us a phone call, text, or an email. Even better, set up a Zoom call with us. That way we can help you make a smooth move out here to Tacoma. And if you want to know everything going on right here in our local market, hit that subscribe button. That way you can be kept in the loop on what's going on every week. All right, the first thing that pops up for a lot of folks, and I gotta tell you, I can also very heavily relate to this, is lack of social network and connections. See, the lack of friends and family can immediately lead to a feeling of isolation and loneliness. We kind of tend to forget when we move to a new city, all those connections are still back at home. I personally, when I moved, kind of dug my head into the sand. I worked really hard for about 6 months. And then when I looked up, I realized I really had no friends. I had just been working nonstop, taking care of my family. I was so focused on the kids making friends and getting settled into school that I had forgotten to take care of myself. And I really did find myself in a pretty dark place, a lot of isolation, like I said, a lot of loneliness. And so what we ended up doing was making a point to get out and meet people. Now this can happen through several ways. For me, went through the Chamber of Commerce, the Rotary Club, our church, joined a men's group inside the church, and got involved more just in the community in general, connecting with business owners and like-minded folks. Not to mention all the people that we have now moved here from YouTube makes for some really incredible friends. But if you move to a new city, not just Tacoma, it's gonna be on you to rebuild your social network. You've got to get out and you've got to meet people. Tying right in with that is just having a difficulty adjusting to a new culture. Coming from the Midwest where everyone is very outspoken, very friendly, they really just kind of pour themselves into you. When I got here, I had heard all about the Seattle freeze. And this is what I hear a lot of people talk about. Oh, people are just quiet. They don't want to talk to you out in Seattle and Tacoma. The reality is that people out here are just super busy. And people are more than happy to build relationships with you. They're happy to connect with you. But you gotta kind of show that you're interested. You gotta kind of be the one to make the introduction, to kind of nudge everybody into relationship. So adjusting to that, I can tell you, I've seen a lot of people that have a hard time, especially from the East Coast where they're really, really loud, or they're from the South and they're just super friendly and sweet or whatever. And they come up here and they just aren't able to connect culturally with people. And so one thing I see people thinking is they really regret moving out here because they feel like culturally people are just more standoffish. The reality is everybody's just busy. Everybody's got a lot going on, and you're gonna have to put yourself out there if you wanna make those connections. Next one is housing issues. Now, I don't mean like there's a problem with houses, but we have seen this crazy trend where people move here to Tacoma and within a couple of years, they're reaching out saying, hey, we're thinking about selling our house. We want to move to a new area. Maybe we don't like this one as much anymore. And again, this is something that I kind of dealt with was, when I moved out here, I didn't have our YouTube channel. No one was showing me these neighborhoods or educating me really on like the culture of each individual town or what it was like. So I flew out here a few times. We found a neighborhood that we liked, and we ultimately ended up moving into it. And after about 12 months out here, in the back of my mind, I was like, man, there are a lot better suited places for our family. There are places we could be in this region that fit our desires, that fit our work, that fit our goals for our kids' educations, even better than the place where we started. And this is what I'm seeing from a lot of people. So this is why you got to reach out to us, though. We know these neighborhoods in and out. This is exactly why we're here. We don't want you to have those regrets. So just shoot us a phone call, text, or an email. If you're ready to get started and have that conversation, be more than happy to get going with you. All right, back to our list. Next one I hear a lot about is weather and climate. People always are moving out here and they're like, I love the rain. They love the rain, they love the cool weather, whatever. But there are some folks who after a while are like, okay, I really do like the rain, but the fall that is just gray with no sunlight is really wearing on me. They really start to feel like kind of a little depressed, feel a little bad, and they start to regret living here. There's also, just this element of like, I know people who move out here from like the Midwest and they miss having colder winters. They actually miss having more snow. They miss snow days, which we get, snow once or twice a year, but it's nothing like it is out in the Midwest. And then folks from the South, I've heard a few people mention like they actually miss the really hot days. They miss those really hot summer days where you're jumping in the lake and whatnot. Last year was really cool. We only swam a couple of days out of the year, and that was pretty rare, but like we like the mild climate, but you just need to prepare yourself that like the weather here is going to be different than where you're coming from, and getting adjusted and having a fair expectation of what that looks like will probably help you not regret making the move. Next, I gotta say, just impacts on relationships have been one that I've heard a lot of people talk about. See, whenever you move a long distance away from friends or family, there is gonna be some form of a strain on that relationship. I've heard of folks talking about how excited they are to move, and then once they've gotten out here, family has kind of cut them off. Or they used to go eat dinner every Sunday at mom and dad's house, and now mom and dad are sad that they moved out here to Tacoma, and they're just not having that same level of communication anymore, and they're missing those family members. And honestly, it's pretty crazy because when I hear these stories, I'm thinking like, you miss your family and they miss you, but you guys just aren't communicating. But regardless, that's still a regret. People have had strain on long-term relationships when they move out here to Tacoma. And I think this honestly goes no matter where they would move to. If they'd moved to Connecticut, it's still going to be a long distance and it's still going to be a problem. But man, that's maybe something you should really prepare for. How are you going to tell your family you're moving? How are you going to maintain those relationships to keep them healthy throughout the process of your life in a new state? We've got to protect those relationships. Next one is financial strain. All right, I'm not necessarily talking about cost of living. Most folks who end up moving out here to Tacoma do a lot of research on the cost of homes and what their bills are going to be and all of those little financial nuances that you would be prepared for. We've got videos on the cost of living in Tacoma and all that. But where the financial strain comes in, when people start regretting, is the day-to-day. I've talked about this before. Finley, my son, playing football. In the Midwest, you just sign your kid up for football, they get some pads, and they go play. Out here, it was like $1,000 to get him registered, to rent equipment, and then, as a parent, you're not walking into the game. Even though the games are at your kid's school, they're still charging you $5 or $6 just to walk in the door. And now that is just one small example of a financial strain that you didn't know, because that kind of stuff's not calculated in like your normal cost of living, like routine research. But as that stuff comes in, especially if you're moving from a cheaper area, like if you're moving from the Midwest or the South, or even parts of the East Coast, when you come out here, you're already, really paying more on your cost of living. So then to have additional financial strains placed on you because of things that there's really no way you needed to prepare for, that causes some people to regret making the move out here. Just like the strain in relationships, I've also heard a lot of people talk about a professional isolation. As a real estate agent, for the most part, we work within our side of our small teams. We do deals with other agents and whatnot, but it really got me thinking about how many people have so many friends and deep connections at work, and they almost have like that second life inside of their office or, whatever. And when you move to a new city, now those day-to-day relationships are gone. They're replaced with a new building, new faces, new people to learn. And that alone can cause people to professionally feel kind of isolated. And not just in a social setting, but also the comfortability of being able to reach out to someone for mentoring or advice at the job. Professional isolation can not only affect you, I think, emotionally, but also your career in general. Those of us that have great mentors, I feel like rise a lot faster. And so folks who move out here, who isolate professionally, they tend to regret making the move. All right, and the last one, and one that I think like I can say that our family has also experienced, is missing the familiar. And it doesn't have to be anything big, but several folks have said they've regretted moving out here because they miss things back home. It sounds silly, but just the other day, we were talking about having Steak and Shake French fries. And I realized like there's no Steak and Shake. Chris and I were driving around and we made a joke about the Waffle House. The closest Waffle House is 986 miles away from me right now. So while those are familiar, like pop-ins for fun, that stuff is gone. Like those little things, that familiar, you know the back roads, you know where the great fishing spots are. You just have that comfortability inside of your environment. And when you move to a new place, like that familiar stays back at home. It's kind of incredible. Actually, there's a YouTube channel very similar to this one, mine, about my hometown of Missouri. And I'll be honest with you, occasionally I pop on there and I'll, watch a video or two. I miss Andy's Frozen Custard in Springfield, Missouri. Hands down. Very familiar, fun date night spot. Really, really good. We reminisce about some of the things that maybe now are even closed. They were open before the pandemic and closed. And, home is where your family is and where your heart is, but that familiarity, it's just something that doesn't go away. And because people tend to get emotional, like that is another reason why people regret making the move out here to Tacoma. All right, so here's what I'm going to tell you. There are a lot of things to love about living in Tacoma. There are a lot of things that you could regret about making a move to the wrong city. But those things are really not unique to any city. I've moved to a couple different cities, and a lot of these complaints I've heard or reasons why I regret moving would happen if we moved to Timbuktu, if we moved to Gary, Indiana. It doesn't matter. Those same regrets could still be there. So what I like to tell people is make sure you're getting with us early so we can help you build a plan to make your move out here to Tacoma early. At the same time, really sit down and think about how the new place that you're moving to is not going to be just like at home. And instead of really leaning into the stress or the pain of it being different, lean into those positive, different experiences. Lean into the things that are new that you never had at home. Get out, go meet new people, go explore new areas, take in the wonderful nature that Tacoma has to offer, the insane culinary diversity of all of the restaurants that you can go to, and just make it fun. When you're not at work, go out and do something. Staying isolated in your property is probably one of the worst things that you can do when you move to a new city. Now, obviously, I feel like I've went through some phase of all of these regrets on a personal level. So, if you ever want to talk about those kinds of things, feel free to reach out to me. Again, we don't mind if you're moving in 3 days or 3 months. Just shoot us a phone call, text, or an email so we can help make that smooth move out here to Tacoma, if after watching this you still think it is the right move for you. And until next time, I cannot wait till you're out here so we can show you around.